They say the camera never lies. But in this case, the man behind it did. When 34-year-old Julia Bennett was found dead at the bottom of a ravine, her husband told police it was an accident, a slip on loose rock during a hike they'd taken together. He sounded devastated. He wept on camera, and for a moment, the world believed him. But when investigators recovered footage from a nearby trail camera, a single image, captured in silence, it told a different story. A story that turned sympathy into suspicion, and a loving husband into a convicted killer. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to Famous Crime Cases, where we uncover stories that challenge what you think you know about humanity. Julia Lynn Bennett was the kind of person people remembered for her warmth. She was gentle, kind, creative, the kind of woman whose laugh could make a room feel lighter. She met Mark Bennett in college. He was confident, charming, a budding software engineer with a quiet intensity that drew people in. Friends called them the couple who never fought. After 6 years of marriage, they'd settled into a quiet life in Crestwood, Colorado. A neat home, steady jobs, weekend hikes in the mountains they both loved. To the outside world, they were perfect. To Julia's sister, Ellen, things weren't quite right. She started sounding nervous when she talked about him, Ellen recalled later. She said he'd been getting colder, more controlling. She laughed about it, but I could tell something was wrong. By the summer of 2022, Julia had started spending more time away from home, volunteering, meeting friends, trying to find herself again. Mark didn't like it. October 12th was clear and cold, the kind of Colorado evening that turns the sky into gold before it fades to steel. Julia and Mark planned one last hike before winter, a short route along Vista Ridge Trail, known for its breathtaking overlook and steep drop. At 5:22 p.m., a ranger station camera captured them walking hand in hand toward the trailhead. Julia carried her tripod, Mark, a small backpack. At 7:03 p.m., Mark dialed 911. "My wife fell. She slipped off the edge. I can't see her, she's not moving. Please, send help." Rescue teams arrived within the hour. They found Mark at the top of the ridge, injured but alive. Julia's body was discovered 120 feet below. He told them she had gone too close to the edge for a photo. The ground crumbled. He tried to reach her, slipped, and injured himself. The story sounded believable. At first, Detective Maria Ortega had seen dozens of hiking accidents. But something about Mark's story didn't fit. His clothes were too clean. His cuts too shallow. His fall too convenient. The autopsy deepened her doubts. Julia's injuries didn't match a tumbled-down, jagged rock. They were concentrated around her head and wrists, showing signs of restraint and blunt impact before the fall. Then came the detail that changed everything. Julia's camera was missing its memory card. "Photographers don't leave without their footage," Ortega told the coroner. "Somebody didn't want us to see what she captured." A week later, Ortega received a call from a wildlife officer. A trail camera, set up to monitor deer activity, had recorded something unusual at 7:05 p.m. the night of the fall, 2 minutes after Mark's 911 call. The grainy image showed Mark standing at the cliff's edge, camera raised in his hands. His expression wasn't panicked. It was focused. Below him, barely visible in the shadows, was Julia's still form. For investigators, it was the first crack in his story. The camera's timestamp didn't align with Mark's account, and when analysts reviewed the digital metadata, they found evidence the image had been copied and renamed on his personal laptop later that night. It was no longer a tragic accident. It was a staged scene. The deeper Ortega and her partner, Detective Liam Rossi, dug, the more Mark's mask began to slip. Phone records showed that Julia had texted him at 5:18 p.m. "I found a great view. You coming?" That was her last message. Mark's response, "Be right there," was sent after her estimated time of death. Bank statements revealed recent large withdrawals and transfers to a private account under Mark's name, evidence of financial desperation. Audio evidence from Mark's phone included a file labeled, "For Julia." It began with soft wind, then a woman's voice, muffled, pleading, "Don't, you promised," followed by static. The rest had been deleted. When confronted, Mark insisted it was an old recording from a past argument. But the metadata timestamp placed it minutes before his 911 call. Mark had played the grieving husband well. Interviews, candlelight vigils, crying at memorials. For weeks, the public pitied him. But when Ortega revealed the trail camera image to prosecutors, everything changed. That single frame, Mark, standing above Julia, camera in hand, rewrote the narrative. No longer a widower, a suspect. Detectives executed a second warrant on his home computer. What they found ended his alibi. Buried deep in his system's cache folder was a deleted video file labeled edge_push.mov. The file was corrupted and partially overwritten, but the timestamp aligned perfectly with Julia's death. Even though it couldn't be played, its file name alone spoke volumes. Digital forensics confirmed it had originated from Julia's missing SD card. The case was ready for trial. The sympathy Mark had cultivated vanished overnight. The courtroom was packed when proceedings began 6 months later. Prosecutor Spencer Turner laid out the timeline in meticulous order. Julia discovered Mark's hidden debts and planned to leave him. He lured her to Vista Ridge to talk. She filmed part of their argument. He struck her, deleted the footage, and staged a fall. The defense argued it was a tragic accident, citing Mark's injuries as proof of a rescue attempt. They claimed the corrupted file could have been named by anyone, or even automatically. Then the prosecution played Julia's last voice memo, recovered from her cloud backup. He wants me to delete everything. He says I'm ruining his life. I'm scared, but if something happens, this isn't an accident. The courtroom fell silent. Mark stared at the table, unmoving. It took the jury less than a day. Guilty, second-degree murder. When the judge read the sentence, 25 years to life, Julia's sister wept quietly in the front row. Ortega later said, "He tried to control the narrative until the end, but you can't edit reality forever." Justice, at least, had found its way through pixels and lies. After the trial, the story spread nationwide. Reporters called it the camera case. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man who thought he could erase the truth had been exposed by the very technology he trusted. Detective Rossi admitted the case haunted him. He almost got away with it. If that trail camera hadn't been there, one random piece of tech pointed the right way, it would have gone down as an accident. Makes you wonder how many don't get caught. A small memorial now sits at Vista Ridge. Julia's favorite quote is carved into the plaque. Photography captures what the heart may hide. Visitors leave flowers, memory cards, and old disposable cameras at its base. Small tributes to a woman whose final act was trying to tell her own story. This case wasn't just about a murder. It was about control, the illusion of power one person holds over another. Mark believed he could shape perception, edit evidence, rewrite truth. But reality has a way of bleeding through. The life lesson this case left behind is simple yet devastating. Truth doesn't vanish. It lingers in every detail you try to erase. Every lie leaves a digital fingerprint. Every secret leaves a trace. And sometimes, justice isn't swift, but inevitable. Julia's story reminds us that love without respect becomes possession, and that silence, once broken, can echo louder than any confession. He said it was an accident. He said she slipped. He said he tried to save her. But his camera, cold, unblinking, incorruptible, told another story. It told the truth, because sometimes the lens sees what the heart refuses to. And in the end, it's not the lies we tell others that destroy us. It's the ones we tell ourselves. If you found this story meaningful, consider subscribing to Famous Crime Cases for more real-life investigation and human story.